It's time for more junior breakouts. Winter is coming in Madison, and the brother connection is going to spice things up in Champaign.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. Happy Friday. It's the weekend, baby. Friday workday doesn't count, let's be honest. We're your host. That's my guy, Andy Patton. No, that's not a Colts hat. And I'm Isaac Schade, and you're joining us at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We want to say a big thank you for making us your first listen or watch of the day, and remind you can catch every single episode ad-free on Amazon Music. Hey, big special shout out goes to all you everydayers out there and all the great members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord as well. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Earlier this week, Andy and I did junior breakouts. That was back on Tuesday. If you missed that episode, I'm going to put it right up here in the corner on YouTube. If you're watching, click on that. But on that show, we did our SEC, ACC, and Big East junior breakouts. So today, we're going to go Big 10, Big 12, and the best of the rest, the mid-majors, the other 26 conferences. By the way, a little primer looking ahead. Next week, we're going to do the same thing with senior breakouts, so get ready for that. The caveat for these breakouts is that they have to have not scored 10 points or more previously. And Andy, I don't think I cheated on any of these like I did on our previous show.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. It remains to be seen. But Andy and I have each made a pick from each of these two conferences and then all the mid and low major conferences. But we want to know yours as well. Do you agree with us? And who would you choose from that? All of that said, we're going to start with the Big Ten. Andy, who is your junior breakout from the Big Ten Conference?
I had so many options in the Big Ten. I felt like when we first laid this out, we laid out all six of these different conferences plus the mid-majors. And I think the Big Ten was the toughest one for me. It was between that and the SEC, which of course makes sense. There's a lot of talented players in those conferences. But I ended up going with Nolan Winter here at Wisconsin. I think he's got the perfect combination of already proving that he's a high-level, efficient scorer, already came very close to hitting that 10-point per game mark, and is kind of pretty clearly set to take a bigger role in Wisconsin's offense. Last year, Winter, as a sophomore, averaged 9.5 points, about 6 rebounds per game, played about 21 minutes. He started every game, so he's going to continue to be a starter, but I think we're going to see an uptick in minutes. Again, he was barely over 20 minutes last year. He shot 71.5% on 2-point attempts last year, insane levels of efficiency around the rim for Winter. He was 35.8% from three, so he was an efficient three-point shooter as well, especially for a 6'11" big man. And for Wisconsin, they lose Steven Crowell to graduation. He's out the door. They also lose some really key pieces from their backcourt, notably John Tonje as well as Max Klesmit. They do add some front court depth, notably Austin Rapp, who I saw quite a bit last year as a freshman at the University of Portland. But Austin Rapp is not very similar to Steven Crowell. He's a floor spacing big. He's going to be operating mostly around the perimeter for Wisconsin. I assume that's why they brought him in. He's somebody who I think he led the WCC in 3-point attempts or 3 points made, or maybe both last year. Like Youngblood was not around the rim at all, despite being 6'9". Like, he is a 3-point shooter, which to me means that Nolan Winter, who kind of operated in both roles for Wisconsin last year, I think he's going to be even more around the rim. And I think that that's going to allow him, with some really good shooters around him in this Wisconsin offense. They bring in Andrew Rohde. They still have John Blackwell coming back, Nick Boyd. Like, I think that Wisconsin's kind of built in a way to really let Nolan Winter thrive down low. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him, bump up to that 14, 15, maybe even 17, 18 points per game. I don't know that I'm going to project him to shoot 71.5% on 2-pointers because that role is going to be so much bigger. But if he's 66, 67% on a higher volume, like, you're looking at a guy who could be an all Big Ten caliber player who could be a huge focal point for this Wisconsin offense. I wouldn't be surprised to see him be one of the better bigs in the entire conference.
Andy, project for me what you think on his rebounds as well, because I like what you were saying there about points, and I think the scoring is going to make a ton of sense. But I mean, do you think he can? I don't want to say he's going to average a double double, but with Crowell gone, with Tanjay gone, whatever. But I mean, could he get up? Do you think to 8-9 boards a game? Is that possible?
I'll tell you this: Wisconsin kind of needs him to, because, and I'm really not trying to pick on Austin Rapp, but he's not a great rebounder. Like that's not the role that he fills. And Crowell, that was something that Wisconsin really needed him for. So I think Wisconsin needs Winter to be. I mean, he averaged about 6 last year in 21 minutes. So if you figure he's playing 27, 28 minutes per game, something like that, yeah, I think if he's not going to average 10, but if you're Wisconsin, your best case scenario is probably him averaging like 8.5, something like that. So if he's 15-8 or 17-9, something like that, I think Wisconsin's in great shape. If his numbers don't improve that much, you're either getting a huge breakout season from Austin Rapp, or you're maybe going to be struggling a little bit in the front court for the Badgers. I think they need him to be a guy who's approaching a double-double most nights, even if he doesn't average one.
Andy, I love this choice. I almost went with him myself, so I'm glad that you did. And I love that allows me to go with a guy that we've talked about so much from the beginning of his time getting to college, and that's Big Zvonimir Ivisic, Big Z. Look, for no other reason than the fact that he's coming to join the whole Eastern European bloc there with Coach Underwood and Champaign. But I love that he's with his brother. It just makes a ton of sense. Come on, how could you not love Big Z? But Andy, there's a couple things. I think when people look at it, it's like, okay, Ivisic, I should say Zvonimir, not Tomislav, has had now his third school in as many seasons, but a lot of that is because started at Kentucky, went with Cal to Arkansas last year. He had that weird NCAA stuff his freshman year, so it was a long time before he was cleared and eligible to play. Had a couple tantalizing moments. I remember his first, like right after his first game, didn't we talk about it on the show? Like, is there any way this is sustainable long-term this freshman year, right? Like, so from the very beginning, but then Andy, think about his production down the stretch last year. It was really coming along. Had a stretch in SEC play where he had 27 and 25 points in back-to-back games, one of those being against Alabama, oh, by the way. Ended up averaging 8.5 points, 4.3 boards. But he was second in the SEC in blocks, 1.9 per. He shot 37.6% from three on 3.6 attempts. And his three-point percentage was consistent from year to year. He was 37.5 the year before that. So, Andy, this combo that Big Z has, the combination of size, of stretchability, of stepping out to do it, the rim protection, it's just such a tantalizing mix to me that it could make for a massive year. Especially I know a lot of people are like, yeah, but look at everything Andre Stojakovic is probably going to do. Fair, but also consider it's a Brad Underwood Illinois team that's going to score a bunch, and there's plenty of points to go around. And I know there's also an argument for, Isaac, but look at his numbers late last season. It really tapered off. Fair, but I think that thumb injury truly bothered him more than maybe he let on. We see that a lot with players, and I shouts to you, admire that, because you don't want to let on what's going on. But he also had that right wrist injury. If I remember correctly, he had some sickness issues that he struggled with, as many players did. And so I think that is more what we attribute the end of the season downturn to. And I expect big things for Big Z in year 3.
I think with players like this too, when you see a guy who is on their third school in 3 years, you tend to think like, okay, they've already gone through 2 different programs, 2 different systems, 2 different whatever. And, at some point you're like, okay, it's probably just a them issue if they can't figure it out after playing for different coaches. But that's not the case for Big Z. And I don't say that Calipari was like a huge hindrance to Big Z. I don't think that he necessarily was, but it's worth acknowledging that this feels more like a fresh start than it's not his second fresh start. He was at Kentucky, he was at Arkansas, but in both cases, he was playing a similar role for the same coach in the same system. And now he goes to what is a very different system, a very unique system for Coach Underwood. They love the offense. They love to score, up in the 90s, hundreds. I think that change is going to be good for Big Z. And I think that is a part of, we're going to talk about some other players later on this list who are on their third school in 3 years. And I do think that at some point you start to be like, well, if you haven't figured it out under, Coach Shire and also under this coach or, whatever it may be, when are you going to figure it out? And with Ivisic, it's not quite the same situation because he's only played for one coach despite being at 2 different schools. We got some other honorable mentions. Like I said, Isaac, there was so many players in the Big Ten that I really wanted to pick. And a couple of them, we're going to talk about two guys at UCLA quickly. Eric Daly, who had you picked him, we'd be accusing you of cheating because he was a little over 10 points per game, but I do expect a breakout for him. Xavier Booker, I'm skeptical. If he breaks out, then I'm going to give a lot of flowers to Mick Cronin, and that's not something I've done very much. But I'm skeptical if Xavier Booker can do it, but he is a change of scenery candidate. I will say the exact same things about the next two players, Elliot Cadeau and Ade Mara. Ade Mara, my intrigue there, John Rothstein labeled that he thinks Mara starts for Michigan with Yaxel starting at the 4. That would put Morez Johnson on the bench, and I'm not sure about that. So it depends on his role. Cadeau, again, I'd be interested to see what Michigan can do with him after some turnover issues at Carolina. And then another one here, KJ Evans, Kwame Evans at Oregon. We couldn't do Jackson Shellstad because he was well over 10 points per game. We kind of already had that breakout, but Evans is a guy who was, I think, 9-ish points. They got Nate Biddle back, which makes me think that Evans's role won't change that much, but he's an incredibly talented kid who I wouldn't be surprised to see him kind of blossom in his third season in Eugene. Well, folks, we got a pair of big men in the Big 12 to discuss next, including a key X factor for Houston to return to the national championship. We'll talk about who that is coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, when I'm on top of my hydration, I notice that everything works better. My energy is better, my mood is better, my focus, even my skin looks better. But getting enough fluids every day, it's not always easy. And that's why I've been loving Drip Drop. Drip Drop is doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. My go-to flavor personally is black cherry. Isaac, you have yours over there. What flavor is your favorite so far?
I've got the classic variety pack here, Andy, and it comes with watermelon, lemon, lime, peach, and passion fruit. I'm a Georgia boy, so I loved the peach. I've sampled peach and watermelon, loved them both. And so, Andy, I'd love for you to make me try lemon, lime, or passion fruit.
I think I'm going to make you try lemon lime because that would be probably one of my next favorite ones. I have not tried that yet. I did love the black cherry. It's become a go-to for me, but I want to see what you think of that lemon lime.
Okay, I accidentally just opened passion fruit. Hang on. Here's lemon lime. Oh, that smells so lemon limey. All right, you keep talking. I'm going to sample this.
You're going to give it a shot? Well, folks, right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. So just head to dripdrop.com and use that promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Isaac, what do you think? What do you thought so far? Oh, you're still going. You're chugging along. Let's see if you can do it. Boom, done. What did you think of that? Good?
Oh, my word. That's really tasty.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of a pucker on the back end, like a little sour in a good way, you know?
Yeah.
That's the third flavor I've tried, and I love them all. I opened that passion fruit, so I'm going to go ahead and try it too. It's going to keep me hydrated during the show here, Andy, because our voices always give out. So this is super handy. Way to go, Drip Drop.
Perfect. Well, folks, stock up now before the heat hits hard. All right, folks, continuing our conversation here, junior breakouts across college basketball. This is the second show for this week talking about this. In the first show, we talked about the SEC, the ACC, and the Big East junior breakouts. Here we talked Big 10 in the first segment. Now we're going to talk Big 12 before we close it out, talking about our mid-major picks. Isaac, I'm going to toss to you first. We're both talking about big men in the Big 12, but I want to toss to you first to talk about your pick here for this conference.
First off, I'm now chugging the passion fruit, and it's also very good, Andy. So 4 for 4 from Drip Drop. I'm going with JoJo Tugler, Andy. And usually when we're talking like this kind of category of breakouts, I feel like we're looking at big scoring increases. Like that's what's, in fact, that's how we set our parameters, right? It had to be under 10 points a game. Yeah. But with Tugler, points, fine, whatever. It's all about him being the nation's best defender with Ryan Kalkbrenner out the door at Creighton. Like without Kalkbrenner, Tugler maybe is your end depoy last year. He was the Big 12 depoy last year, defensive player of the year, literally led the nation in defensive rating at 87. His defensive rating was even smaller his freshman year, which is crazy. Led the Big 12 in block percentage at 12.4%. And then so when you just think about what he already is doing, which like it's Houston, hello, that's what we do. But also, Andy, as you think about Juwan Roberts being out the door, and I know that's not LJ Cryer, but Juwan Roberts, anybody who watched any bit of Houston in the Final Four, heard the stories, knows how important Juwan Roberts' role was as a glue guy, as just bringing all those little intangibles. And I know Chris Sinak is going to probably steal some of that, like take a lot of that, especially some of that offense. And so I don't know that JoJo's offensive numbers need to increase all that much, but maybe he gets up to 7 or 8 a game, something like that. But if his rebounds go up some, he was 4-1 last year, or 4-1 to 5-9. Maybe if he could get up to 7-8 rebounds, he had 1.9 blocks a game last year. Could he get up to 2? And by the way, did all that averaging just 21.7 a game. And I know part of that is Houston's MO. So he might not jump minutes per game all that much. But I just think all of that, the defensive side of it, surely is not going to drop off unless his offensive uptick forces him to not be as locked in on that side. But I just think there's so much here. And I think that there's a lot of potential for JoJo and Houston. Houston's going to be great. And so he's my pick to maybe not even get up to still double digits in scoring, but it doesn't matter in this case for me.
Yeah, I think Tugler is a great pick. And I'm glad you laid it out the way that you did, because I wouldn't expect JoJo Tugler's numbers to look dramatically different. I think you're right that, yeah, it probably improves from 6 points to maybe 7.5 or 8 points, and so you're going to look and you're going to see, like, was that really a breakout? But if he's the defensive player of the year, or if he's like, should be if he doesn't win it and it's like a snub, then I think your breakout happened. Like, that's what you want from him. And for him, it's so much role definition, because Chris Sinak is not the same player as Juwan Roberts. So what roles is he able to fill that, Roberts, what is he able to do that is replicating Roberts, and what is he not able to do? And in that case, is Tugler able to kind of fill those gaps? My guess is probably, because that's what he has been up to this point in his career. He's kind of that dirty work type player. And I think that whatever Sampson and Houston needs him to do, he's going to go out and work his butt off to do exactly that. And I don't envision that Sampson's going to turn to Tugler and say, hey, now we need you to score 15 points per game. That's just not going to be the role that they're asking Tugler to fill. And so I think him going out there and being an absolute dog on defense and blocking 2 to 2.5 shots per game and gobbling up offensive rebounds and just being an absolute pest defensively is going to be a breakout type season for him, even if the stats on Basketball Reference don't look all that different necessarily. So I really like this pick for that exact reason.
Yeah.
I actually also went with a defensive focused big man who probably isn't going to be a high level scorer. Mine's a transfer though. And it's if I'm going to accuse you of cheating by picking players who averaged over 10 points per game, I'm going to take a little bit, because this is now the third player I've taken who's coming from a school that plays very, very slowly. I took Jordan Ross, who's transferring to Georgia from St. Mary's. Last show, I also took Day Ames from Virginia. And now I'm taking my second transfer from Virginia, this one being Blake Buchanan, going from Virginia to Iowa State to go play for TJ Otzelberger. Last year, in about 22 minutes a game, Buchanan averaged 5.5 points and 5.5 rebounds per game. He also averaged just over a block in about 22 minutes. And again, scoring 5.5 points in 22 minutes in Virginia's offense is sort of the equivalent of scoring 10 points per game, because that's just the style they played. Even with Bennett out the door, that's how they played under Coach Ron Sanchez last year as well. And Buchanan's a guy who he's already played for TJ Otzelberger. Otzelberger coached him at the U19 event a few years ago, so there's some familiarity there. He actually played on that team with his upcoming teammate Milan Momcilovic, who we talked about for this list, even though he averaged a little over 10 points per game last year. But Buchanan's going to be filling a role that was filled last year by Brant Chatfield and Deshaun Jackson, that kind of center role for Iowa State. Both those guys are out the door, and they went hard after Buchanan to be that player who's going to gobble up rebounds. He's going to be a menace defensively. He's going to block shots. He's going to crash the offensive glass. Alongside Momcilovic and Joshua Jefferson, it forms like a really good, lengthy, tough defensive kind of front court for this Iowa State team. And while I think Buchanan, I don't think he's going to be like a 12 to 15 point per game guy. I think similar to Tugler, he could be closer to 8.5 points per game, 6 or 7 rebounds, maybe 2-ish blocks, similar numbers, honestly, to Tugler. And I think that is going to constitute a breakout of sorts, because he's going to be a really valuable piece for an Iowa State team that really needs some help in that front court after losing their 2 centers from last year.
Yeah. And you're going to be, look, also, let me just say, I don't think you're cheating at all. I think you're taking what we had as counting stats and finding savvy ways to get some tempo adjusted stats.
And it's not like he was close. If he was like 9 points at Virginia, that'd be different. But he's 5.5. Like, you're not even that close.
No, you're just a savvy businessman. That's all you're out here doing. All right, a couple quick honorable mentions here. Milan Momcilovic, another player at Iowa State whom I've just loved for forever, doesn't fit the under 10 points per game threshold. Fine, whatever. But the world needs to know of the gospel of Milan Momcilovic. He's the man. A couple injury guys. Elmarco Jackson has had, missed all of last year at Kansas. So technically a redshirt sophomore, but it's his 3rd year. And Kansas needs him to be a dude, was a stud, high-level recruit coming in. Another coming off injury is Mo Krivas from Arizona. Was at 7.9 last year when he went. I think he last played December 7th, if my memory bank is correct. And then Cam Carr, a 6'5" guard from Tennessee that played 2 years there and is transferring to Baylor. Man, just anybody we can get for Scott Drew that just seems to step in and do some work. So we'll keep our eyes on that. There's some Big 12 folks for you. And again, we'd love to know what you have. Now, Andy, we've done the 5 power conferences. We got 26 conferences left, and we've got 1 player each from all of that, which includes a former McDonald's All-American to help make up our mid-major junior breakouts to close out the show coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Game Time. Look, we've all been there. You've been waiting for weeks. You know that concert tickets are going on sale. You're logged on. You're waiting to get into the digital line. You hit refresh as soon as you can when the clock strikes whatever time it is, and then you lose your spot in line. And it's like, oh my goodness. Well, look, live music should be about the memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. And that's where Game Time comes in. They make getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop the closer it gets to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with killer last minute deals. Are you worried about what happens if your plans change? Don't be. The Game Time guarantee has your back with cancellation protection and more. I literally just recently used Game Time to get family tickets to go see Dude Perfect. It was incredible and was a great core family memory, and it's all thanks to Game Time. So join what my family did. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms do apply. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Andy, we've hit 5 conferences thanks to the death of the Pac-12. Until next year, there are 31 total conferences, meaning out of the remaining 26 conferences, we can each pick 1 more player and a few honorable mentions to go around. We do got to be a bit quick here with both our picks. Who do you have from the mid-major, low-major ranks?
Yeah, I went with a down transfer. In fact, a lot of the guys we picked are transfers coming from the power conferences down to the mid-major level.
It checks out.
I went with a guy who is a former McDonald's All-American, even though he has not been productive at all in college up to this point, mostly due to injuries. That would be Mookie Cook, who is transferring from Oregon to San Francisco, joining Coach Chris Gerlofson and the Dons. Averaged just over 1 point per game in 29 games across 2 seasons at Oregon. He only played 5 games his freshman year before going down with an injury. Only played 24 games last year. Was mostly just out of the rotation, but was also still recovering from his injury. So we haven't really ever seen Mookie Cook look fully healthy. But this is a kid who, again, was a McDonald's All-American, played in Portland, also played at Compass Prep in Arizona, is a 6'8", super high-level athlete. He actually played LeBron James in that Space Jam. I think it was in the Space Jam movie. He played LeBron James in a movie recently.
Did he really? I haven't seen the new one. Yeah,
and he's somebody who looked kind of like mini LeBron James. I mean, he was not that good in high school, don't get me wrong, but like in terms of his athleticism and physicality and the style that he played with, like there was a lot of really high-level optimism around him coming out of high school. And like there's still reason to believe that he could be a very good player in a situation where he gets playing time and when he is healthy. So assuming health, he joins a San Francisco team that already has one of my picks for sophomore breakouts, which is Tyrone Riley IV, who was fantastic last year as a true freshman for the Dons and nearly made the FIBA U19 Team USA team. It was reportedly between him and Tyron Stokes, the number one recruit in the 2026 class, for making this roster. So if Tyrone Riley is going to be that level of player and Mookie Cook can turn it around, first of all, Gonzaga and St. Mary's are going to have to watch their back about the San Francisco team in the WCC. Cook is, going to be a hellraiser out in transition. And if he can knock down the outside shots, he was 4 of 9 last year, so the sample size is not really worth reporting on, but he was a good shooter in high school. He's somebody who could be a really, really fun player to watch in the WCC this season.
Shouts to our guy, Coach Gerlifson. We like him here on this show. Okay, Andy, my pick is Tyro Ward at VCU. He is another down transfer, as you just said, with your pick there of Muku. I got to come up with a fun nickname for him. That's too funny.
Can we call him Shooting Star? Because I want to clarify that he did not play LeBron in the Space Jam movie. He played him in a movie called Shooting Star. So we're going to call him the Shooting Star.
Deal. I'm now bummed. Anyway, Tyro Ward transferring down from there. Last year, Andy, Tyro Ward, 9.1 points a game at LSU, made 41% of his threes on 4 attempts a game. He's a 6'6" forward. I just think he is going to have a massive usage rate this year at VCU. Like that skill capability with that size in the A10, I think he's just going to be dynamic. And you combine what, again, I think is going to be a massive usage rate with what he's already done at the SEC level. He could be up to 15 to 20 a game. And that wouldn't even be a crazy thing to think about. Obviously, new coach him out. He's off to Virginia, Andy's favorite school apparently now. And Phil Martelli comes in from Bryant, which is a good moment to say, stay tuned, because next Thursday on the show, we actually have an interview with incoming VCU Ram Keyshawn Mitchell, who came over from Bryant with Coach Martelli. So a little plug there. But dude, Andy, just think it's going to be a massive year for Tyrell.
If you told me a player who averaged 9 points a game in the SEC, who shot 41% from 3 on 4 attempts per game, like if you told me that player transferred to Duke, I'd buy it in a second. If you told me they transferred to Kentucky, whatever, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. The fact that he transferred to VCU, which is, is a great program, but that is a huge get for the Rams. I think he's going to be an outstanding player for them. This is a very awesome pick. And again, he was a good 3-point shooter even as a freshman. So somebody that, a really good pick here, Isaac. We had a ton of honorable mentions. We're not going to talk at length about all of them, but I did want to mention Aaron Bradshaw. I mentioned earlier in the show guys who've been at multiple stops already, Bradshaw being among them, a guy that didn't really do it at Kentucky, didn't really do it at Ohio State. Is it going to be different at Memphis? I think that's the big question for Bradshaw. We know the talent is there. We know injuries were a part of his story at Kentucky at least. But yeah, I think it's do or die time for Aaron Bradshaw, and Memphis kind of they collect these guys, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I got to tell you, I'm pretty interested to see if Bradshaw can kind of get unlocked a little bit under Coach Hardaway and the Tigers.
I'll say this though, Andy, you say do or die time. If Aaron Bradshaw doesn't break out this year, next year we'll be talking about him on.
We will absolutely have this.
Oh man. Good stuff. Yep. Speaking of Memphis, Mikey Williams now off to Sacramento State. Obviously has had some off the court issues, but look, the talent is there, and there's that Miro Little heads off to UCSB, UC Santa Barbara. Banana Slugs? Is that the Banana Slugs? Or is that the
Santa Cruz? Santa Barbara's the Gauchos.
Gauchos. I had it on my second guess. Garway Duel comes into McNeese a little bit too late there to catch the Will Wade era, and then Dusty Stromer heads off from Gonzaga down to GCU. They need some help with Tyon. He and Tyon Grant Foster are just basically flipping places. I hadn't even thought about that till literally this moment. Cool stuff there, Andy. Really excited to see who breaks out at the mid-major level. As we said, basically all of these dudes are down transfers. Will they go and ball out and come back up? Will they stay? That's always interesting to watch.
Folks, that's going to wrap it up for us today and for this week here on the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. We had so much fun with these junior breakouts. Very excited to do it next week as well for those senior breakouts as well, looking at guys who've already been in college for 3 years, but maybe haven't quite had their opportunity yet and what that might look like for them this upcoming season. We'll get that coming your way next week. But folks, as always, we want to say apologies to the Lawyer family. Let's go Wild Popes. Cheers to the Mick Bruins. We talked some UCLA hoops today. And of course, have a fantastic weekend, everybody. And peace out.